What's up, everybody? Matt Gajewski here, back again talking college basketball. And this time, for the final time this season, we have the national championship, a bittersweet day, but a matchup that should be awesome, hopefully a little better than the Final Four. But before we get there, if you like this content, please consider subscribing to the channel, leaving a like on the video or a comment. Something small, even like a thank you or an emoji, goes a long way. We are a channel dedicated to really all things college basketball, all things college football, which will be here soon enough. And one last thing, if you or someone you know has a gambling problem, please call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. We will be referencing sides, totals, a few props in this particular game because the national championship is here. And it will be played between Michigan and UConn. Yes, the matchup nobody expected, with UConn faltering at the end of the season, but alas, UConn now back in the finals again, and Dan Hurley has the chance to win 3 of the last 4 national championships. Just some unbelievable numbers for him historically. But this game comes with a 7-point spread, and it is not in favor of UConn. Michigan is the favorite here. The total is sitting at 144. So to get here, let's talk resumes. Michigan is currently the #1 team in the country. That is based on KenPom rankings, just a little bit more accurate than the AP and whatever else might be out there and available. They're dealing with a couple injuries. LJ Kaysen's out for the year, their backup point guard. Yaxel Lendeborg got an ankle. His ankle, he like stepped on a shoe and then his ankle rolled. They were calling it an MCL sprain and an ankle sprain. He did come back in the game, was a little bit limpy, and of course, adrenaline is helping him right away. He's going to play in the game. The only worry is just at what capacity. And on that, UConn solo ball also suffered a foot sprain. He's in a boot, would also expect him to play. The real question just comes down to effectiveness with both of those guys. Now, resume-wise, Michigan basically is untouchable. They are 36-3, beat Howard, St. Louis, Alabama, Tennessee, and Arizona in resounding fashion to get here. Their losses came to Wisconsin, to Duke, and Purdue, all in the top 10. And they now have 14 top 25 wins. UConn, by comparison, is #9 in the country. They are 34-5. They beat Furman, UCLA, Michigan State, Duke, and Illinois to get here. In the regular season, they did take some losses that are more questionable than what Illinois did, or excuse me, than what Michigan did. This team did lose to Creighton and Marquette, and they lost to Marquette right at the end of the season by 6 points, one that's been hard for me to get out of my head. But otherwise, aside from the 2 Big East losses, you're looking at Arizona and St. John's twice, which are at least a little more excusable. But one of those St. John's losses was by 20 points. They have 8 top 25 wins, so they trail Michigan by 6 in this category. And a lot of them have come of late. And even their tournament run has been a little bit questionable at times. It really took a near 30-30 performance from Terrace Reed to knock off Furman, who kept it close. UCLA was far from full strength in that game. And of course, it took a buzzer beater to knock off Duke. So in this particular game, the question is, can UConn do it again? They've been stringing together incredible performances. This will be their toughest test so far. Again, Furman gave them a real test. UCLA not at full strength. Michigan State has a lot of problem shooting. And then Duke, a buzzer beater, they even weren't at full strength. By far, their best game they played this year was against Illinois, in the tournament, that is. So Michigan's going to come in taller, not by a lot, but they're a little more effective on the glass, and they're certainly deeper when you look at some of the height in the roster and on the team. UConn is 30th in height, 21st in rebounding. Michigan has them bested in both areas. UConn is a little better on the offensive glass, but Michigan outranks them by 41 spots on the defensive end. And Terrace Reed's been an absolute monster. He's 6'11". This is a rare matchup for him where he is ceding 4 inches to Ade Mara. There's just not a lot of guys built like Ade Mara, and certainly none in the Big East that Terrace Reed has had to show down against repeatedly. And then they'll come in waves. When Mara's not on the floor, you still have to handle Morris Johnson, Yaxel Lendeborg. The size comes at you in waves, so it is a little bit deeper on the Michigan side. When you look at the depth for UConn, it's like Eric Ribo, who's 7'1", but he's very limited as a player in comparison to what Michigan offers. So on the offensive end for the Wolverines, 6th in effective field goal percentage, 2nd inside, 30th from 3. And they're 135th in three-point rate. Much higher than a team like Arizona that we saw them play against in the last game, and that was basically the difference in the game. When they can, Michigan will play in transition. They'll attack the offensive glass. When they're in the half court, it's a lot of pick and rolls, post ups, inside outs, high lows, and all of that flows through the front court. It's Mara, it's Merez, it's Lendenborg. Mara especially is a lob threat. He's an excellent passer out of the low post, which creates a lot of opportunities for other players. If he has the ability to score in the openings, he's going to take it. But then you see a lot of efficient passing out to Elliot Cadeau, 38% three-point shooter. Trey McKinney, 39.5%. Namari Burnett, 38%. Lendenborg himself's at 38%. So it's not an offense that you can just dedicate extra resources, double the interior. If you do that, you are going to be giving open looks to shooters that have been able to knock them down. And when they're not shooting just well below season averages, this Michigan team has been lethal in dominating opponents. It's really been when they've gotten negative shooting variance and the other team has experienced positive shooting variance that they've gotten beat. Think like the Wisconsin game where they shoot, 50% from three. Michigan has an off shooting night. That's how they lose. So can UConn defend this? They are 13th in total defense. They play very slow, so transition's probably not going to be the best path for Michigan to win this game. In at least one of their losses, the Duke loss, Michigan that is, we did see Duke kind of erase the transition game, which is a big strength for Michigan. So if UConn can at least do that, I would feel a little more confident. Can they erase the offensive glass for Michigan? Probably not. UConn is a pretty good defensive rebounding team, but that's just easier said than done. My real problem with this defense against Michigan is the pick and rolls, the pick and pops, even post-ups. All of that has been an issue for UConn. And it kind of comes down to, can Terrace Reed stay on the floor? He's the best defender in the Big East. He's really their only rim protection. The second he comes off the floor, things get a little bit tight for this UConn team. And even with Reed on the floor, you start doing the math. Okay, Reed's probably going to have to be on Mara. Does that put Karaban on Morez Johnson? I mean, that is a physical mismatch in favor of Michigan. Obviously, Demery is their second best defender. He's a top 5 Big East defender. He'll probably be on Cadeau. But even with this, all of the athleticism Michigan offers, you quickly run into matchups that Michigan can exploit, whether it's Karaban, V. Morez, or what it is. Michigan should be able to score in this game, as long as the game is just not crawling at a snail's pace, which it very well could. Now, UConn, this team is 38th in effective field goal percent. They actually take fewer threes on a rate basis compared to Michigan. They're worse at shooting them, and they're not as effective inside. They also use a lot of pick and rolls, inside outs, high lows. That largely comes through Terrace Reed. And he's been very streaky this year. He has been able to string together games in the tournament. He's been awesome. And he's excellent on the offensive glass. I don't think he will have as much success down there in this game, especially because when you saw them play Illinois, he was just able to out-physical a lot of those bigs. If you're going to have like Merez boxing him out, Merez Johnson is just as physical as Terrace Reed. Maybe a little bit less, but it's at least closer. So if you can stop him, then you probably are going to have to rely on Demery to create a lot of space with his team. He has a very good assist rate, top 25, and his driving ability does create a lot of open shots. And really the only ability UConn has, I see in this game, to beat Michigan is if they hit their threes, creating some of the space. If Demery can drive into the lane, kick out to open threes for Karaban, solo ball, Braylon Mullins, maybe they can win. But really, just Karaban's been shooting well at 38%. Solo ball's at 29.5. Braylon Mullins it really took the last game for him to climb up above average. He's now at 33.7% from three. So they've shot the ball a little bit better in the tournament, but this has been super streaky all season long and leaves me really nervous. Teams like Marquette were able to stop them from three. So we'll see. This is a very volatile stat. And Michigan, with their elite length, number 3 defense in the country, first of all, they're not going to let you offensive board as effectively as UConn has been. You're not going to get a lot of points at the rim, and you're probably going to be forced into more mid-range shots than you want. Again, you have to be able to pick and pop, pick and roll. UConn does do a lot of pick and rolls, and they do a lot of actions off the ball that find space open for players, but this is a very athletic Michigan team. The top 3 defenders in the Big Ten are on this defense: Mara, Lendenborg, and Johnson. Cadeau's not that far behind either. He's well within the top 20, and they're going to probably use him on Silas Demery. it's a very tough matchup for UConn across the board. And it kind of comes down to, does UConn just hit their threes, which has basically been, how do you beat Michigan all season long? You had to have an outlier shooting performance. In the peripheral stats, both teams kind of turn the ball over more than you'd like. UConn has a better turnover force number. They're 96th. Michigan is 285th. Cadeau just had an awesome game against Arizona stealing the ball, so we'll see if he can replicate that. But Michigan gets this right back drawing fouls, and this is a big concern for me in this game. Michigan is 73rd in fouls drawn. UConn is 167th. UConn doesn't generate as many fouls as Michigan. And UConn commits a ton of fouls. This team is 295th in fouls committed. Terrace Reed averages 4.3 fouls per 40 minutes. Braylon Mullins averages 4.1 per 40 minutes. Eric Ryba, the backup for Reed, averages 6.3 fouls per 40 minutes. Michigan also much better shooting free throws if they get to the line. And the real concern with this foul stuff is not Michigan shooting a lot of free throws. It's Terrace Reed on and off the floor. If Terrace Reed is off the floor for any length of time, this game could get absolutely out of hand in favor of Michigan. Tempo in the game, we alluded to it a couple times. Michigan plays fast, UConn plays slow. Michigan has dropped to 69th over the last 6 weeks. But Michigan has been dragged into a couple slow games throughout the season. Before the NCAA tournament, we actually saw 7 of their last 8 games play below or at 70 possessions. And part of that is if you play a slow team like Illinois and you're winning, Michigan is happy to kind of play at a slower pace than normal. They'll try to play fast at times that they can get those fast breaks, but I'm not really expecting that here. I think this could play a little bit below the total at 144, if anything else. The model has this 77.3 for Michigan, 70.5 for UConn, which is basically minus 6.7, leading to a tiny bit of value on the UConn side. My view on this is basically it comes down to shooting for UConn. If they hit their threes, this game could remain close. If they do not, this game could get absolutely out of hand. They just do not have as many paths to scoring as Michigan does, who can kind of do whatever they want with the front court or shooting the ball. Just a lot more paths for them. They'll play in transition. They'll attack the glass. UConn doesn't do quite as many of those things. Now, rather than take something straight up right now, I would just rather wait on the line. In fact, we did this with the Michigan game in the Final Four. I know we came on here and said Arizona was the preferred play, but we weren't going to take it right away. The reason was we wanted to just see where the line moved, and Arizona was sitting at plus 1.5. The ideal position for me that I wanted to take was Arizona plus 2. But prior to tip-off, it moved 4 points in the other direction, and Michigan was at plus 1.5. So the wager we actually placed on the game in Discord before tip-off was Michigan plus 1.5. And all that had to do with line movement just because we had the line set at Arizona minus 0.5 point. By the time it got to Arizona minus 1.5, minus 2, there was no value on that side. It actually showed value on the Michigan side. Something like that could very well happen here before tip-off, the hour before, the day before. You never really know. So when you're not showing a lot of value, I think the best path is to just wait and see what is going on before tip-off. And, you know, in the regular season, this absolutely would not be a game we place a wager on, but it's the national championship. It probably will end up on the card in some way, but we're just going to have to see where it goes. In the player prop market, there are a couple things that we did take. First of all, Yaxel Lendenborg is sitting at 23.5. PRA, points, rebounds, assists. We took the over there. It kind of is just a bet on health. I think people are kind of assuming he's not going to play full minutes. We have him set at 34, and it's the national championship, man. Unless he re-aggravates something, he's going to play every possible minute as long as it remains close. We took Jaden Ross over 3.5 points. We also took this during the Final Four. He's basically playing 20 minutes a game right now, kind of taking over for that Jalen Stewart role because Jalen Stewart got hurt, and that was earlier in the season. Now that he's back, he just hasn't been able to regain the role from Ross. So basically, you're just looking at hopefully he gets 3 shots and makes 2 of them. Solo Ball and Alex Caravan under 2.5 threes apiece. Basically, every 3-point prop on UConn is boosted because they're expecting Michigan to force them into more 3-pointers. I do think this is the path they need to succeed. But again, total in this game, 144, expecting this to be slowed down by the UConn side. You're not really expecting a lot more shot attempts than normal. Solo Ball and Alex Caravan already are averaging well below 2 threes made per game. So we'll take both of those. 2 other ones, Namari Burnett under 4.5 rebounds. He's just kind of being squeezed on minutes recently. You're seeing an uptick in minutes for Trey McKinney, for Roddy Gale. So that is one. We have him set around 23 minutes, I believe. And the last one is Eric Ryba. This is kind of if you're playing a large spread of props, I think you can add it. 2.5 is very low. If Terrace Reed doesn't foul, Ryba might not even play a minute. I think you could legitimately see 38, 39 minutes for Terrace Reed. They just need the size so badly in this matchup. However, Terrace Reed is a major foul candidate. If Terrace Reed fouls, and he fouls early, Ryba could play up to 10, 12 minutes. The other out you have in that situation is Ryba's even worse fouling than Terrace Reed. So let's say Reed fouls twice early in the game. I mean, we saw it in their last game against Illinois. Ryba fouled 3 times in 5 minutes. That very well could happen again here. So there's a lot of outs to under 2.5 points for Ryba, a guy clearly they just do not want on the floor. Ideally for any minutes, but they'll probably have to play him a handful. We have him projected for 5, which is very low. And I think there's a chance he plays like 2 or 1. But that'll do it. We are going to start college football immediately, probably within the next 2 weeks. Been doing a lot of prep work behind the scenes. It'll be team previews, best balls, win totals, look ahead lines, everything you can imagine. So if you're interested in that, stay tuned on the channel. It will be coming very, very soon. But until then, thank you for watching and thank you for all the support. Really appreciate you all being here throughout the season. It's been a fun one. And until next time, good luck. We will see you later.